with a report coming out of Philadelphia that the Philadelphia Eagles aren't going to be offering a contract to Golden Tate prior to the start of NFL free agency on March 13. There have been many in Cowboys Nation clamoring for the former Detroit Lions wide receiver to be a free agent target for the Dallas Cowboys. The Cowboys may have a need in the slot in 2019, with speculation raging about the future of Cole Beasley with the Dallas Cowboys. It's possible that Golden Tate could fill that void if Beasley were to depart. Here's my internal debate about why the Cowboys should and shouldn't pursue him. Why the Cowboys could pursue Golden Tate need other than Amari Cooper. The Dallas Cowboys don't have a player on the roster for 2019 that has any extensive experience working out of the slot in the NFL. Cole Beasley's potential departure leaves a hole on the wide receiver depth chart. Dak Prescott loves Cole Beasley. When he was able to run the offense the way he wanted to, Beasley flourished. Dak enjoys the benefits of a good slot receiver because he likes to throw the ball on crossing routes over the middle of the field. Golden Tate could be that guy. Golden Tate has long been one of the best in the NFL with running routes out of the slot. Per Pro Football Focus, in 2018, Golden Tate had 49 receptions in the slot, which ranks him tied for 10th in the NFL with Larry Fitzgerald. His 504 yards from the slot ranked 16th in the NFL, which was only 63% of his receiving yards on the season. On the season, he had 3 of his 7 touchdowns in the slot, good for 16th in the NFL. Productive as I mentioned above, Tate has been one of the best slot receivers in the NFL, and has also been effective on the outside as well. Prior to this last season where he was traded mid-season from Detroit to Philadelphia, Tate had recorded 90-catch seasons in each of the previous 4 seasons. With Detroit those 4 years, he had at least 1,000 yards and he's averaged 4.2 receiving touchdowns since his second year in Seattle. Golden Tate's price point could drop heading into free agency. He was supposed to be a player that helped Philadelphia get over the hump in the NFC East, but he didn't work out. There's a good chance that Tate finds the market for his services to be pretty shallow, given this is a decent draft for slot wide receivers. NFL teams could opt to draft an Andy Isabella or Deebo Samuel in the 2nd or 3rd round as opposed to pay Tate for 2 to 3 years in the twilight of his career. Why the Cowboys won't pursue Golden Tate age. The Dallas Cowboys aren't typically a team that is going to pay an aging player. If Cole Beasley doesn't resign a deal with the Dallas Cowboys, it won't be because of the money or the opportunity, it will be because Dallas declined to pay age. Golden Tate will turn 31 in August as he enters his 10th season in the NFL. Tate has now played 137 games. Players don't usually get better with age. Free agency and the draft. As I mentioned above, this is a decent draft class for wide receivers, especially those who operate or could operate in the slot. The Dallas Cowboys have shown for much of the last decade that their preferred avenue of team building is through the draft. They'd rather take a guy like Isabella or Samuel in the 2nd or 3rd round and have his rights on a rookie deal for the next 4 years. Golden Tate doesn't fit the Cowboys' free agency MO. When they pursue players in free agency, it's the young players with a solid to elite trait that have yet to prove themselves, or it's the veteran who has had some nice years in the NFL that's in their mid-20s that is coming off of a down year. Like Allen Hurns. If the Cowboys are going to go into free agency to replace their star slot receiver, it's going to be with someone who is younger and may not be as proven as Beasley or Tate. In summary, the Dallas Cowboys aren't going to target Golden Tate in free agency. Why do that when they could resign a player they like and know in Cole Beasley, or draft someone and have them under team control on a rookie contract for the next 4 years? There are a lot of players who have done a lot in this league that are going to be released or not extended in the next few weeks. Some of them should be names of interest to the Dallas Cowboys, but many of them will be just names. Free agency is less than a month away, so make sure you continue to come by InsideTheStar.com for all the latest on Cowboys free agency. The Dallas Cowboys have several difficult decisions to make in the offseason, and one of those is what to do with their all-pro and often injured linebacker Sean Lee. A source tells it The Athletic EFW Sean Lee expects to play in 2019. Lee is scheduled to make $7 million in base salary. When the 2018 season ended, Lee wanted to talk with family regarding his future. Now we know what he wants to do. Lee, long considered one of the best linebackers in the NFL, has regularly struggled to staunch healthy, including a 2018 campaign that saw Jimmy take a backseat to emerging players like Jalen Smith and rookie sensation Leighton Vander Esch. According to OverTheCap.com, Lee is slated to have a cap hit of just over $10 million this season. The Cowboys, if they were to release him, could save a little more than $7 million in this year's cap while accumulating just over $3 million in dead money toward this year's cap. Lee was limited to just 7 games in 2018 and was held out down the stretch. This after only playing in 11 games in 2017. During that 2017, the Dallas Cowboys were terrible on defense when Sean Lee sat out due to injury, but were able to flip the script in 2018. The Cowboys first signed Joe Thomas to provide depth at the linebacker position. Then they drafted Leighton Vander Esch with the 19th overall pick in the first round. Both of those players played significant roles throughout the season and have relegated Lee, who will be 33 years old in July, to being a cap casualty. The Cowboys will head into the offseason knowing that Jalen Smith is their middle linebacker and Vander Esch is their weak side linebacker for the 2019 season. Joe Thomas will be back and continues to provide depth, backing up at a couple of spots. Damian Wilson is a free agent, but could be back depending on the money, as he provides valuable, though limited snaps at strong side linebacker. Sean Lee has been a great player for the Cowboys when he's been available. 2018 was really the only time in his career that his injuries looked to catch up with him. Even when deemed healthy, he didn't look like the same player he had been earlier in his career. As he should, he'll explore his options in free agency and could be an option for a contender that could use a veteran presence like Lee at a relatively cheap rate. Someone like the Kansas City Chiefs, Pittsburgh Steelers, or the New England Patriots could give Lee a limited role, which would allow him to be effective at his advanced playing age. It seems almost a foregone conclusion that if Lee plays in 2019, it won't be for the Dallas Cowboys. It's a tough business. As we've seen with DeMarco Murray, Tony Romo, Des Bryant, and Jason Witten, the end of a tenure with a franchise comes to every one of our favorite players, and sadly, it seems that time has come for Sean Lee. Richard Maxson, USA Today Sports. In just a little over a month, a new league year and the start of NFL free agency will be upon us. Even before then, teams will start making decisions on their own free agents and identifying their biggest roster needs. The 2019 Dallas Cowboys will be looking to fill out their depth chart and build on their playoff appearance this season. I thought we'd strip things down to the most basic level. If the Cowboys had to play next year with only the guys currently under contract, what would that team look like? Where would the biggest strengths and weaknesses in the roster be? Obviously, that won't happen. Dallas will re-sign some of their own free agents, bring in a few others, and add a new crop of rookies from the 2019 draft. But this exercise helps us to see what the biggest off-season priorities are. As a reminder, here's the list of the players whose contracts expired in 2018. Dallas Cowboys 2019 free agents: DeMarcus Lawrence Wr, Cole Beasley DL, David Irving Wr, Tavon Austin LSLP, Ladouceur Tate, Jeff Swaim LB, Damian Wilson FB, Jamize Olawale ADT, Daniel Ross, exclusive rights DT, Karan Rito T, Cameron Fleming RB, Rod Smith LB, Justin March, Lillard Dedatwan Jones G, C, Marcus Martin S, Darian Thompson. Restricted. For those players, only Jones, Martin, and Swaim, injured reserve, were not on the 53-man roster at the end of 2018. That means 13 of our most recent depth chart members, nearly a quarter of the group that played in the Cowboys' last game, are not under contract for next year. So again, what would it look like if Dallas didn't re-sign these guys or add any additional talent this offseason? Let's start with the offense. Based only on players currently under contract for 2019 and beyond, here's what the offensive depth chart would look like. Before we go further, one name you might notice missing here is Wr. Allen Hurns. That is because the 2019 portion of his contract is actually a team option year, and Dallas has yet to exercise that option. Technically, until they do, Hurns is also set to be a free agent this offseason. What are the biggest issues in the depth chart above? The most glaring loss would seem to be at receiver, with the absences of Hurns, Cole Beasley, and Tavon Austin thinning out the depth chart quite a bit. Would the Cowboys really be interested in playing next year, having to rely heavily on Noah Brown, or even Terrence Williams, as a third man? You also have to be concerned about your RB depth. Darius Jackson has flashed things at times but has been floating around the league for 3 years now. Rod Smith was more than just a reliable backup, he also was one of your top players on the special teams coverage groups. What's more, with fullback vacant, Smythe could have stepped into that role as well. Dallas didn't get much out of Jamize Olawale in 2018, but you still need a guy for certain packages and situations. Lastly, your backup defensive tackle has to be a concern. I threw Stanton's name in there as one of a few names signed to the roster, but there is no swing tackle in that mix who inspires confidence right now. Re-signing Cam Fleming or finding a suitable replacement should be a major off-season priority. So yeah, there are some holes to fill on offense. But the real problems for the team are on the other side of the ball. This starting lineup doesn't sound terrible on paper. After all, minus DeMarcus Lawrence, that's about the same crew you had last year. But we've seen what life is like without a top pass rusher, and the Cowboys' defense would quickly fall from grace without Tank, or someone else on his level. The biggest depth problems are at DT and LB. I plugged Cheetah, a practice squad holdover, in there at DT because he was the only guy left, but Dallas needs to do better. I also included Ross because he's an exclusive rights free agent and was a solid player last year, so it's a virtual lock that Dallas will be bringing him back. Still, it's not a deep group. And it's the same group that got run all over by the Rams in the playoff loss. Ideally, the Cowboys will be making a real investment in the position and bumping Collins or Woods into a rotation role. At linebacker, Shinley is still under contract for now, but that isn't likely to stand. He's one of the easy salary cap casualties to project given his diminished role and high cap hit. But with Damian Wilson also a free agent, that would even further drain an already thin group. If the Cowboys really want to make a championship push in 2019, they have to do some real work here. They need to get better in the interior defensive line and in the backfield, hopefully turning guys like Maliek Collins and Jeff Heath into primary reserves instead of starters. Don't forget about special teams this offseason either. Dallas could stand to upgrade from Brett Maher's 80% accuracy on field goals, and long snapper LP Laducer as a free agent. Thankfully, the Cowboys have loads of cap space to work with and a solid foundation carried over from last year's playoff team. Even without a first-round pick this year, they have all the resources to improve and be a real contender next season. Clearly, as this exercise showed us, they have plenty of work to do to make it happen. One of the more interesting personnel moves in front of the Dallas Cowboys this offseason involves receiver Allen Hurns. He had a disappointing first year in Dallas, and his contract creates the opportunity for significant salary cap savings. But is the situation really that simple? Our last sight of Hurns was his awful season-ending injury in the Cowboys' playoff victory over the Seattle Seahawks. Despite how ugly it was at the time, the recovery period should allow Allen to return for at least the start of the 2019 preseason. However, Dallas got the entire regular season to see what Hurns could do. Even before Amari Cooper showed up in Week 9, Allen had never really emerged as the team's top WR despite being the highest paid. In the 7 games before the Cooper trade, Hurns only had 13 catches for 158 yards and 1 touchdown. The Cowboys had hoped that Hurns would fill the void created by Des Bryant's release, but he was barely a factor on the offense for almost half the year. Once Amari arrived, Hurns was relegated to 4th on the depth chart behind Cole Beasley and Michael Gallup. From that point until the playoffs, he was only targeted 8 times. The second year of Hurns' contract would count $6.25 million against Dallas' salary cap. That would be okay if he was a bigger part of the offense, but there's little sign of that coming based on last season. Dallas Cowboys WR Allen Hurns. However, due to Allen's post-season injury, the Cowboys can't just make him a typical salary cap casualty in the next few weeks. He would need to be medically cleared before then, and that may not happen until August. Therefore, they wouldn't get that cap space to use during the primary free agency period in March. In this case, though, Dallas has an atypical solution. Though it was not heavily reported at the time that Hurns was signed last year, the second season of his 2-year deal came with a team option. With a team option, the Cowboys have all the power. Officially, Allen is set to be an unrestricted free agent in 2019 unless Dallas exercises their option by the end of the current league year. All the Cowboys have to do is nothing at Hurns, injured or not, will be completely off their hands. His scheduled cap hit will be totally removed without any dead money. Fortunately for the player, this cruel reality appears unavoidable. Dallas has no justifiable reason to pick up that second year based on anything that occurred last season. There is a chance that Dallas could let him become a free agent and then re-sign him to a more equitable contract. If neither Beasley or Tavon Austin are resigned, the Cowboys might consider using Hurns as the third receiver and playing Cooper out of the slot. But even then, many would rather see Noah Brown get more opportunities if Dallas goes with an internal option. Still, it's not guaranteed that Allen Hurns won't play another game for the Dallas Cowboys. However, it's almost certain that it won't be on his current contract. Dallas will likely let him become a free agent, and we'll see what happens from there.